online. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Okay, before I bring anybody on, I want, every time I'm bring you guys on, but when you come on, I want you to go like this. Okay? All of you need to be going like this. All right? Easy E's on the screen. Chad. Aussie's drop kick coil on the screen. Brett's doing it. Okay, everybody make your hands and look up. And as you look up, Caesar Sam frickin' Darnold 2-0 for your Minnesota Vikings.
Remember this, Caesar Sam Darnold.
Drink it in, boys. Drink it in.
Oh, my God. How many weeks are we going to have to endure this? Who do they play this week? Who do they get beat by this week, I hope?
Some guys might say that I'm a superstitious type person, so you can bet your ass that I was going to start the show off exactly the same way I did last week. Because here we go. Texans are next in line, baby.
Yeah. How are you going to start the show off when they get beat by the Texans?
That's just happenstance. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Well, we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. So let's see. Everybody have a good week?
Busy football. Football. A little baseball on the weekend and some more football. So
more football. So let's get this show started. Everybody's always asking and yelling for Brett. So let's bring Brett on for a quick UFL. News broke this last week. So take it away, Brett.
All right. The league had an announcement Monday. Basically, everything that we had heard through rumors over the past few months. The season is starting March 28th, which I want to say is a Friday. Same weekend, I believe, as Major League Baseball. So that's interesting. They did announce that there will be a Friday night game every week. The schedule has not been released yet. I understand they've got to wait on the teams that play in Arlington and DC. Their schedules typically aren't out to the 1st of December. But we do have a schedule, March 28th. Fox, ABC, and ESPN will carry the games once again. So no FS1, no USA, none of that. Schedule will be out soon. Hearing that the Memphis Showboats have interviewed quite a few guys, it's a possibility per James Lawson and Mike Perry that there might be an announcement this week on the new Memphis head coach. We'll wait and see. Other than that, business as usual. They are hiring a couple guys in each local market to go ahead and start promoting the league, boots on the ground, to hopefully help out with ticket sales this upcoming year. Everyone knows last year the viewership ratings were very strong. Actually, the new followers on all the social media platforms was great. Got to get that attendance up. Also, the rumor is, and it has not been announced yet, things are very fluid in spring football, but we're hearing that at Audi Field in D.C. is where the championship game is going to be located. I want to say June 14th, which will be awesome. That's a great venue to watch football, 20,000 capacity. So go ahead and get everything scheduled. I do not anticipate that changing. So that's all we've got for this week on the UFL.
Audi Field for the championship game.
Beer Snake, baby. Beer Snake.
Sounds like I'm gonna have to make that trip. That's a nice stadium to watch a football game in. So Washington D.C., Eric and Chad, start saving your coinage.
Yeah.
I'll drive down to St. Louis, then I'll ride with you.
Oh,
I will be flying. I will not be driving.
I made the drive. I made the drive to Washington D.C. to see.
I'll get a ride on the Plur family jet.
I'm not guaranteeing. I'm not guaranteeing that I will be making that same trip. That is faux show. So let's get rid of Brett now, because he probably needs to rest. He's been doing a lot of talking already. He's got to pace himself. Let's go to Eric for his weekly Big 12 ratings.
A little shakeup in the Big 12. We had a big matchup between Kansas State and Arizona, and Arizona found out what it was like to play a little Big 12 football. So they found themselves dropping a little bit this week. Utah and Oklahoma State play a big game. Play a big game this coming week at Oklahoma State.
I'm looking around the corner.
Got to get on this side of it.
You made it a little bit wider this week, so we got
a little bit. So we're at Oklahoma State with Utah and Oklahoma State. That's 1 and 2. So there'll be a shakeup there at the top. Kansas State holding at 3. Iowa State moved up to 4. No real big games. Kansas State does play BYU, so that'll be an interesting matchup. Iowa State plays Arkansas State. Arizona State has Texas Tech. And then UCF and Arizona are off. As I said, BYU plays Kansas State. Kansas is at West Virginia. And TCU plays SMU. So big matchup. Going to be a big shakeup up at the top. 1 versus 2. Looking at this game, I know we'll pick it a little bit later, but I'm going to go on a limb right now and tell you that next week, the power rankings will probably reflect Oklahoma State at the top and Utah falling with their quarterback out. They're just not the same team. And, they hung on by their fingernails this week to the power ranking number 1 spot. It's going to be tough to hold that at Oklahoma State. So should be a good matchup, should be a good game, but I'm already making my pick. You can mark me down, Ed. It is Oklahoma State over Utah at home in the matchup of ranked teams in the Big 12. Outside of that, we're still early. We're just now getting into, the heart of the conference schedule. Some teams have played a conference game, some have not. But once we get into the conference schedule, you'll start to see some shakeups. I did have Colorado after, handling in-state rival Colorado State. They are just outside the top 10. And we'll see. Maybe Colorado picks it up here, picks up a few wins in the coming weeks and cracks the top 10. But again, until Colorado shows me some consistency, more so than just beating Colorado State, it's going to take a little bit more than that to crack top 10. So that's the Big 12 Week 4 power rankings for now. But there will be some shakeups I anticipate next week, and we'll probably see. I'm making a prediction now. We will see Oklahoma State at the top of the Big 12 power rankings.
So let me ask this question then.
Yeah.
You've already taken Oklahoma State, and I've taken Oklahoma State as well. But with this being Eazy-E's Big 12 Week 4 power rankings, if you think Oklahoma State's going to win, why are they not number one on your poll?
Well, because here's the deal. It's a great question, but here's the deal. If you're in your number one spot, very similar to the SEC, Texas or say the top 25, Texas supplanted Georgia at the number one spot. That's all fine and good when you're talking about the top 25, but within the conference, when you're talking about conference foes, whether it be the SEC, the Big 12, the Big 10, I guess if you start the season out as the man, okay, I guess it looks like you got to beat the man. Now, Utah had an unfortunate, their starting quarterback going down, who I think was like, I don't know, what was he, like 28 years old, but he went down. That's a tough slot for them. But until they drop a game, I'm going to keep in that number one spot. I mean, that has still been enough for me to drop them because talking power rankings. Yes, in all honesty,
just got a lot weaker with their quarterback.
Yeah, in all honesty, if I was going off that philosophy, I would probably have Utah probably down in the 4th spot, and I would bump everybody up one. But I use the philosophy of, hey, if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. I think Oklahoma State this week will sort that out, so it'll be a non-issue next week. But I left Utah up there. I don't want to look like a Big 12 homer with the old team, so I left Utah in there. But like I said, I firmly believe that Utah will be dropping some spots after Oklahoma State takes care of business at home. So, but outside of that, not a whole lot of big games in the Big 12. So we'll get into the conference schedule, get in the meat of the conference schedule here next week. I think are all conference schedules next week. So that's when things will start really shaking up in the Big 12 rankings.
So we'll table then the Big 12 discussion. Really, the biggest game in that conference this weekend is, of course, number 12 Utah at number 14 Oklahoma State. So we'll table the rest of the Big 12 till we get to our picks.
Yep.
So in the meantime, let's remove Eric and let's put up Chad's Big 10 power rankings of the week. And Chad, take it away.
Well, at the top, we still have Ohio State. You're not going to hear me say the Ohio State because, I'm not a pompous idiot. It's just Ohio State. And then you got number 2, you got the Trojans, the newcomers to the conference. And 3, we got Oregon. Now, I know there's been a little shuffling in my rankings here, but I think it reflects the strength of how they played. And then, of course, you got the up-and-coming powerhouse Rutgers, which Ed is falling in love with week by week.
You're not going to give that up, are you?
No, they got to get beat. Then you got Penn State, and then we've got Michigan, and I just don't think Michigan's the same without Harbaugh. But we'll see. You got the Fighting Illini at 7. You got those Hoosiers from Indiana at 8. Nebraska at 9, and you got the ever-loving Iowa Chokeyes at 10.
Well, let's talk about this a little bit because I just, if we're going to put this power ranking in perspective,
okay,
we have to do a couple things.
All right.
First off, we have to let everybody know the type of guy that you are. All right.
What does that mean?
Now, bear in mind, I'm gonna take this off the screen for just a second because I want to give everybody a little perspective of Chad here.
What is that?
Chad is when I first met. Oh, did I not load it? I'm gonna have to do it later. Dang it! Let me put this back up. I'll get it though. I'll get it.
Karma knew you were doing something.
But anyway, so what I was gonna say about Chad is very superstitious. Chad is a big believer in the anti-gank.
What is this word? I've never heard this
I'm
word
telling
before.
you, without a doubt, the only reason he has Nebraska sitting at number 9 is because he thinks
You're
the
calling
more
in my
you
into
talk
question
about
my integrity?
something you want to happen, it's not going to happen. So he figures the lower he puts Nebraska, that somehow that's going to create a positive effect and they'll keep winning. The first time he puts them at the top, they're going to lose. That's Chad in a nutshell. Am I right, Chad?
I have no idea what you're talking about, what you're referring to. The offense just doesn't look that good. I mean, Dylan has played well, but again, he is a true freshman. And the defense looks good. The defense looks really good. But Indiana, you got Brett Bielema there, old Wisconsin coach. That dude can coach. He can coach. And Indiana's looking tough this year. And if what you're saying is true, then certainly I would have your black and coward yellow Iowa Hawkeyes ranked in front of Nebraska.
No, that's. Let me tell you the second thing about Chad. The second thing about Chad is that when he knows that he can give that screwdriver just a quarter turn and get under somebody's skin, he's going to do it. Now, I guarantee you, Iowa could beat Ohio State. They can beat USC back-to-back in their schedule, and Chad would still have them at 10 just to roast my ass. And that'd be the only reason he would do it.
I don't. You're calling them integrity. My integrity, my rankings. I am highly insulted by all of these accusations.
So having
Although
said that, now that having Rutgers number 4 and having the Huskers at number 9 has really started to make me waver on the legitimacy of Chad's Big Ten power rankings. So let's take that off the screen, and let's bring in our other astute guests to see what they think.
I'm throwing a flag on this. Oh my god!
What was that?
Keep in mind, I'm the one that
I'm throwing a flag on this.
Oh, really?
I'm sitting there reading some of your rankings, and I'm like, just shaking my head. I'm like, okay. I wasn't going to alter them.
I'm sorry. Did Rutgers lose? Did Rutgers lose?
But listen, I mean,
Nebraska,
you have Nebraska
that offense
at 9
doesn't look real solid yet.
Rutgers at 4.
Yep.
If they played today, Nebraska wins by easily 17-21.
No.
Easily.
No.
Man, I tell you what, whatever you got, you need to pass it over. Here, hand it up to me so I can take a sip
everyone,
of it
Chad is a Nebraska fan, and he does not want to jinx them.
Yeah, that's all that is.
That's not true at all.
Shapers. Rutgers.
Okay, so let's move along.
We'll see.
And, let's get to the conference that's still considered the best conference in college football.
It just means more.
And see, Brett, I think I like this vertical better because the 4 of us can still comfortably sit here.
True.
And discuss things. And we don't have anybody hiding. So take it away, Brett.
I mean, Texas hasn't played anyone yet. Yes, they played the defending national champions in Michigan, but I think we've got a pretty good idea of what Michigan's about this year. They stormed back last week and took care of business at home against Arkansas State by 10. So that's the Michigan that we're dealing with this year. It's not last year, Jim Harbaugh's Michigan. Tennessee looks fantastic. Again, they haven't really played anyone, but that offense and that freshman quarterback does not look like a freshman.
Yeah,
And
they're lucky to have a great record.
Oklahoma Saturday night in Norman, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to get a dose of. I might be wrong. I think they're going to get a dose of reality. Georgia, wow, Kentucky had them right where they wanted them Saturday night. Georgia was. It was definitely a game before Alabama. They obviously did not take Kentucky seriously, and Kentucky on both lines of scrimmage absolutely held their own with Georgia and gave Georgia fits. Kirby Smart was very sideways. I dropped them from first to third. Ole Miss took care of business once again. They're looking very, very good. Alabama looked like the old Alabama Saturday in Wisconsin. We got our 2 tackles back, and that made a big difference. But with me being an Alabama fan, you know, it doesn't matter where you're at right now. Alabama still got Tennessee. They still got Georgia. They still got Missouri. They still got Oklahoma. Everything's in front of Alabama right now, but they really took it to Wisconsin Saturday. I still see some holes in our young secondary. There was 2 receivers wide open. The ball was overthrown, same as the South Florida game. So that's something to look forward to when Alabama plays a team where a quarterback isn't missing those receivers. And that would be Ole Miss, Georgia, and Tennessee. Missouri, they had some trouble with Boston College. Boston College is a well-coached physical team. Still, they came out with the victory. They're definitely, like I said, a potential playoff team. Oklahoma did what they had to do, took care of the Green Wave at home. Not a lot of offense, and I got news for them. If they want to beat Tennessee this weekend, they better score more than 20 points because I understand that that is the head coach's pedigree as being a defensive guy. He coached with Dabo, handled that defense at Clemson for over a decade. But this Tennessee offense and the way Heupel spreads it from sideline to sideline, very, very, very tough to defend. You ask Nick Saban, of all the offenses he faced at Alabama, Tennessee was the toughest to defend because they make you defend the whole entire field. LSU, what can you say about LSU and Brian Kelly? Down 17-0 in Columbia. South Carolina, all the momentum, and every time it looked like South Carolina was going to put them away, a referee's flag blew in. Very, very, very questionable roughing the passer. They called South Carolina a pick 6. There was a couple other calls in that game, and you know, typically you see that go for the home team, but that did not happen Saturday. LSU's got a lot of talent, but they've got a lot of holes in that team. I'm going to leave them at 8. Texas A&M went into Gainesville, took care of Florida. You know, the rumors continue to swirl. I didn't know if Napier would make it to Monday. He's still there. Rumors are flying about who they're looking at, who they're talking to, from Kiffin to I think the name came out today, Gundy from Oklahoma State. I'm a man. I'm 40. That name came out.
What about
Texas A&M? Their only loss at home to Notre Dame in a last second. And we got to give a shout out to our guy that always visits us, the Notre Dame fan. Where was that team last week that went to Purdue? Did any of you guys see that Notre Dame Purdue game? My goodness. Kyle's a big Florida fan, man. I hate it for Kyle. He's a good diehard fan. I've known Kyle for years. And my buddy Terrence is going to start doing some graphics for us. Big Florida fan. I felt bad for even calling him today. I said, before you say anything, I'm not going to razz you. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. I mean, not even, you know.
Thought, Brett?
And the Hogs are one overtime away from being undefeated. Gotta leave them in the top 10. I got South Carolina looking out at 11. They would have definitely probably been in the 7 or 8 spot if they could have finished off LSU Saturday.
So what do you think, Brett? Kyle says Lane Kiffin, next head coach of Florida, to which Jay responds he would be stupid to leave Ole Miss. So what's your thoughts?
Lane Kiffin I'm a Lane Kiffin fan. He came off the Saban second chance tree, just like Sarkisian, just like Bill O'Brien, just like the head coach at Maryland. I mean, we could go on and on and on. I think Lane Kiffin is where he needs to be in Oxford. I mean, look, they are more than happy with 9 and 10 win seasons in Oxford year after year. And with this new playoff format, I think he will definitely get them to some playoff positions. There's a different, I wouldn't call it like an Alabama atmosphere down in Gainesville, but they won a national championship with Spurrier. They were competing for one for a decade. They won 2 with Urban Meyer. And now they've kind of hit a patch where Alabama did in the 90s and early 2000s, where every coach they're hiring is just falling short for one reason or another. Dan Mullen was a good coach, couldn't recruit, didn't like to recruit. Napier's done a pretty good job of recruiting, but the coaching just – there's a reason why they're calling him Sunbelt Billy. Billy Napier, there's no way he makes it through this year. The fans and the boosters won't allow it in Gainesville. I do think that Lane Kiffin is probably the first name that they're going to go after. You know, he posts so much on Twitter, and I follow him, on X. 2 weeks ago, when the rumors first started, he showed a video of him and his son at the house in Oxford that's being built. I hear his daughter goes there. She likes it there. Lane Kiffin from 15 years ago would already be on the plane meeting with Florida. I just don't know now. I mean, times change, people change. Lane is still Lane, but he's not the 30-year-old Lane or the Lane we remember from Knoxville, Tennessee either. He's had some rough bumps in the road, and deep down he knows down in Gainesville they're going to expect more out of him than what they do in Oxford, and that's just a hard truth of it.
But Brett, when you think about this, it's going to take a Lane Kiffin to come back to Florida or to go to Florida, because you can't. It's not working just being Florida and recruiting.
No, it's not, and because Alabama is still in a good position. Georgia is better than Georgia's ever been. Tennessee is back. It looks like to the Philip Fulmer days. Then you add Texas and Oklahoma into the mix. Look at what Drinkwitz is doing at Missouri. LSU still going to be able to recruit a top 5 class every season. Florida is facing a lot more now than what they were, when Urban Meyer first left. There's more competition. We had the recruiting rankings up from last week, I think, that I shared. And I want to say, 8 out of the top 9 in recruiting is from the SEC. That's what you're dealing with. They built a new facility down in Gainesville last year, new weight room, new locker room, fancied it all up and all that. But that's just to stay on pace with all the other big-time schools. Florida does not have Texas money. I don't know if they got Alabama booster money. Tennessee's doing a lot of things up there with their NIL. And like I said, Kirby's going to be top 5, top 10 every year as long as he stays in Athens. So you're absolutely right, Eric. It's going to take one hell of a name. I've even heard the name Urban Meyer floating around again, and he's got more baggage than I got now, but he's also got 3 rings at 2 different schools. So
I think if Urban comes back to coach, it's Notre Dame or nothing.
I agree with you. I think, wasn't that his dream back when he was at Utah? As he always wanted to coach Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I do agree with you.
To me, Urban Meyer is Notre Dame or nothing. Forget about him. But it's going to take a Lane Kiffin or somebody along those lines to get Florida back on track
But
Because
how many young hot coaches are coming around that are
That's just
coordinators right now that's going to be a head coach? Are they going to take a shot on some young hot stud offensive coordinator at this school or that school? Or how are they going to pull a Lane Kiffin? It's going to take a lot of money. And what do they owe Napier? Is it 50 or 30?
As hot as the SEC is right now, there's no way that any school that has any name at all in the SEC is going to hire an unknown.
I agree with you, but there's only, Nick Saban's retired. Harbaugh's moved to the NFL. Then we get back to the NIL and to the portal situation. How long is Kirby going to keep on fighting this battle where you have to recruit the same players every damn semester? Excuse my language. It gets old, and I don't blame Nick for retiring. Enough's enough of it.
Here's what I see happening, and it's unfortunate for schools like mine. I could see a Matt Campbell.
Well,
I could see
Billy
names.
Napier was a hot name when they hired him. He was under the Saban coaching umbrella. He was doing well where he was at, but I just think Billy, he's totally overwhelmed. You could tell, and they showed a picture. I saw it on X and shared it of his wife hugging him on the field after the game, and looked like she was in tears. And again, it's hard to feel sorry for someone where the school owes them that kind of money. But also, when you're a professional and you do this for a living and you live it and breathe it, you take pride in what you do. And to take one on the chin and just say, I failed, that's there's no way the man stays to the end of the year. They won't have a fan in the stands if they don't get rid of him by game 11 or 12. Because if Texas A&M did that to them, we've went back and looked at their schedule numerous times. I don't know if they're going to win more than 3 or 4 games this year. They can't keep Billy. But again, what names are out there?
Right.
What names are out there?
Because you still have to get a Matt Campbell to Florida. The NFL couldn't get Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Does Matt Campbell say, "Hey, I've accomplished as much as I can," and I'm just using him? I'm sure there's others at obviously not your top programs. Iowa State's a good program, but not a top program. They're not Georgia. They're not they're not Texas.
The only thing
are the boosters going to go for another Billy Napier that's, hey, he's been successful here, he's doing good here, he's good. I understand they want an Urban Meyer or a Jim Harbaugh or a Nick Saban or a Lane Kiffin or a Sarkisian. But when you start going down these names, hell, they're NFL, they're retired. Nobody's going to come up with Texas money. Sarkisian ain't going nowhere.
Hey, Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz is another name.
Well, I remember last
I don't
year.
want my Florida buddies to end up jumping off the tallest building where they live. So no.
Well, I remember last year when Matt Campbell, when the season was over for Iowa State, and what'd you have? 7 wins last
26.
year. And
Jay says they owe him $26 million.
Yeah, 26
one
million.
of the fans spoke up and commented on Facebook that Iowa State really had a good year. Matt Campbell's a great head coach. He got them they got 7 wins. And then if you got a fan base that's happy with 7 wins, now Matt Campbell's got to ask himself a question.
Right.
Does he want to stay at Iowa State where he can be there forever? Because if that's all the expectation that the fan base has is that he gets some 6-7 wins a season to keep his job, or does he have that fire where he wants to see if he can do a little better?
Well,
it's just like Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. If he gets 9 or 10 wins every year, which is I think what he's averaging now, he's going to be right there at the playoff cutoff line. Ole Miss hadn't had success like that since the 60s. Why would he leave? Florida can pay him maybe a couple more $1 million, but Lane don't need money.
If they can't get a big name, they comb the college ranks in the NFL for a former beloved Florida player who's coaching someplace, and they bring him in. Whoever
that didn't work for Nebraska. That didn't work for Nebraska.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
Florida's
just
in a
saying.
tough spot, man, and I hate it for him because at Alabama, I mean, we've been there. It was probably the best thing that Nick retired when he did retire. I don't know if Dable's going to work out. There's only one Nick Saban, one Bear Bryant, but he was definitely one of my top three. And right now, what's anybody's top three? Jay, you're a huge fan. I mean, look at Hugh Freeze, Auburn, and not to hate on Auburn, but he's got a worse record right now after so many games than what the old Boise State coach had. Now he's recruiting. The boosters are behind him. The Yellowwood guy, the other guy, they're spending money. They're number 5 or number 6 in recruiting. But
Russ,
But
said-
Any of those
Trina.
Big 10, any of those Big 12 or Pac-12 teams that have head coaches that are flashy, those coaches are looking to get out of Dodge, and they would probably jump at the opportunity to go to Florida.
yeah,
See, that's the problem at Iowa State for a Matt Campbell is, like Ed said, well, I mean, a 7-8 wins. Well, I would say prior to nil, no. When we beat Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, I mean, he set the standard that year. But when nil and all those things come in, Iowa State's never going to compete with Texas in nil. Iowa State's never going to compete with a Florida. They're never going to compete with Alabama. They're never going to compete with Georgia. So the reason I brought Matt Campbell up is, so if he sees, his love for Iowa State may be this big, but what can he accomplish?
what is he getting paid
Because-
at Iowa State?
I'm not sure. I've never looked at it. I would say he's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 1.6. I mean, I'll look it up real quick, but it's not. It's less than he should be.
I like Mike's comment. Mike, and not to even, I don't even want to get Chad stirred up, but how much is Nebraska paying old boy? Because Matt Rule was a very hot name, and Nebraska did a great job of landing him. But what kind of money is he getting paid at Nebraska? I know you guys have got a lot of alum there.
I don't know. I don't know. What he's
Florida
getting.
might absolutely try to go after a Matt Rule as well after the season's over, because Nebraska, I know outside looking in and looking at Nebraska's schedule, I can see 9-10 win season easy for Nebraska, and that's probably if they fall a little short.
Matt Campbell gets paid as of his extension in 2020. He gets paid $4 million a year,
Wow.
and he's contracted to
He could
2028
do a lot better than that, could he?
at Florida. Absolutely.
Well, maybe 6 or 7, but I mean, and I know it's, but still, 7-8 wins at Iowa State, or are you going to be forced to? You better win 10 games here in Gainesville. And oh, by the way,
Right.
you got Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, LSU.
There's the balance. There's the balance that these college coaches have to look at. If I'm at Iowa State and 7 to 10 games they're building statues, or I flip that and I go to Florida, and if I don't win 10, they're burning my house down. And now,
And I know I'm an SEC guy, but the SEC's rough, fellas. Y'all watch what I'm telling you. At the end of the year, and we've said it before the season started, there's going to be 5 SEC teams in the playoffs. Well, how many teams can win 10 games a year when there's 5 teams in the playoffs every year?
So I'm gonna step in on this because again, we're gonna be here till 3 a.m. But I want to continue our talk on the SEC. I watched the Texas and Michigan game this last weekend. Texas just steamrolled Michigan. It wasn't even a game. Michigan. I don't know if it's a combination of Texas is that good and Michigan's that bad, or what do you think, Brett, Chad, Eric? How good is Texas?
well, before Brett goes off, this is exactly the reason why I think Texas is Texas. They are very good in the trenches. They're very good up front on the offensive line, and they're very good up front on the defensive line. Texas, as opposed to Oklahoma, who's got some work to do in the SEC, when Texas came to the SEC, they are built to contend in the SEC because, and Brett, I think you'll agree with this, Brett. If you want to compete in the SEC, it starts up front on both sides of the ball. If you cannot compete, if you can compete on the defensive side, but maybe not the offensive side, you're dead in the water. If you can compete on one side or the other, you might make some splashes here and there, but you're not going to be a consistent Georgia or what Alabama's been.
No.
But if you can compete on both sides of the ball, as I think Texas can, that's where I think Texas is going to separate itself. What say you?
Well,
Chad, go ahead.
Real quick. I think Texas got so lucky that Arch Manning and the Manning family has the integrity that they have, that when he had to sit last year and didn't play, and then this year the starting quarterback came back and he decided he's a Manning. I'm going to stay here. This is what I do. Now that Ewers is hurt and going to be out 4 or 5 games or 3 games or whatever it is, and they can have possibly top 4 quarterback in the entire country step in and replace him, where anywhere else nobody's got any quarterback depth in this country, because once the top recruits don't get a start, they bail. And here he is staying. So
Well,
right
he
now,
also, from what I
they're the
gather,
big
got
winners.
paid a couple $1 million to sit on that bench too. Last
Right.
year.
Yeah,
Well,
that changes
I'm not
things too.
disagreeing with that, but he
Yeah.
could get that anywhere he went. He
Yeah,
could
but
have
you're
went to
talking.
he
You're
could have
talking.
went to Bama. He could have went to wherever he wanted to
There's
go.
not but maybe 3 to 5 schools willing to pay that kind of money. Ohio State, Texas.
I guarantee you, any coach in this country would have said, "Yeah, we'll pay him $3 or $4 million. Bring him in."
But that's not really. I mean, that's chump change. He is
Guys,
prepared.
that's a lot of money when you're having to pay a lot of your other guys too. X amount. I mean, it adds up.
He's preparing himself for a career in the NFL. The only way he's going to get that contract in the NFL, a big contract, is he's got to play.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you can say, well, he's getting $1 or $2 million to sit on the bench. Yeah, that's true, but that's chump change when it comes to an NFL contract. He's got to get on the field and he's got to play.
Well, and Ewers is done after this season. So I mean, the Arch is definitely their parent. And I think Ewers, if something, he's one play away from being the starter. That's the way it is as a backup. You're one play away.
Well, I tell you what, Ewers is 2 or 3 games away from being Wally Pipp. Because if Arch Manning keeps playing like this, they might not let Ewers back in.
Yeah.
What do you count for 5 touchdowns? I mean, whoa.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I
That's
know
not bad.
it's San Antonio, but
I read some stat where he ran faster with the ball or was clocked faster with the ball than
20.
I thought, I don't know about all that.
21 mile an hour he was clocked at.
So having said that, is Georgia in trouble?
Brett, go ahead. We'll just sit back and listen.
They have Kirby. They have Nick Saban's formula that Kirby took with him. I mean, from the keep your shirt tails in, Kirby has copied and duplicated everything he learned with Nick in Baton Rouge and Miami and Tuscaloosa. And you got to give the man credit. I mean, what they say about flattery, that is Alabama East. But with the NIL and the portal and players constantly going to the pros, like it's tough to reload every year. Like Saban said, winning the championship wasn't all that hard. Compete for one year after year after year, that's the difficult part. And now you've got 2 other big boys in the conference. The portal and NIL's full steam ahead. They lost a couple good linemen on both sides of the ball. They lost the next Kelsey, in my opinion, with Brock Bowers. They've got a couple holes in them right now that they didn't the last 2 or 3 years. Are they in trouble? No. I think out of the big 3 they got remaining on their schedule, worst case scenario, they'll go 1-2 and probably still eke into the playoffs. But Georgia going to Austin and Tuscaloosa next week and Oxford in a few weeks. They are definitely beatable.
Well, they lost that, but here's the deal. So I heard this today. They lost, I think, their left tackle, I believe, in the Kentucky game.
Yeah, and it hurt them in the Kentucky game, and it's going to hurt them.
When he doesn't play, their offensive production goes down substantially.
Yeah.
With him out, I would argue their captain of their offensive line out. Can Georgia sustain these next 4 to 5 weeks? I mean, here's the deal. They're going to get what I consider to be the SEC pass. If they go 3-2 in these next 5 games, if that's anybody else, if that's, Big Ten team, maybe minus Ohio State, if that's, whatever team, they're done. They're cooked. Forget about them. So Georgia will get that pass. But these next 5 games, losing who they did, and now having these next 5 games, it's a tough run. I say Georgia is in trouble.
Their defense is so good, and they're so well coached. I think their defense will be able to keep them and just about any game, but at some point the defense does get tired. They get beat up, and they get tired of having to, 3 and out, and having to get back on the field. If anyone can overcome it, it would be Kirby, but I would be very surprised if we don't see a couple L's next to their name, in the next 6 weeks total. But with everything they got coming up, they're not the same Georgia as they've been the last 3 years. Not from what I've seen.
I think they're beatable.
Let's move on to the college pick segment so that we can turn our attention to the NFL. We got 4 games we're going to pick this week. The first game is number 24 Illinois at number 22 Nebraska. Nebraska's favored by 8.5 points. It's a Friday night game, 7 p.m. on Fox. I'll go out on a limb since, and before we pick this game, I probably should set the stage for Chad here. As I talked to you earlier about Chad being a superstitious kind of guy, he's kind of a little different too. Back in the day, in the early 90s, when he got me involved in fantasy football, I never really, I didn't know the guy. I found out about him through a friend of mine that was an acquaintance of Chad. They finally let me into their fantasy league. So at the time, Chad did a weekly newsletter. And when I say newsletter, that's putting it lightly. It was like a 3 or 4 page newsletter that he took a lot of pride in doing. So the first time I ever met Chad, I knock on his front door. Doot, 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 doot. I go inside, and he welcomes me in to sit in the living room and talk football with him. What has he got front and center on his living room wall? This is the first thing I see before I've even had a chance to make an impression of Chad. That is front and center on his living room wall. Not his family, not any of his kids. Nothing. Not a.
Well, at that time, I only had one kid.
I only had one.
And he didn't even like him.
That was hanging on that wall before we were married. My wife had moved in, and it hung there. She took it down, and I put it back up. And then when we bought our house, one of the first things I did was walked in and hung it up in the what's now the dining room. And she's moving stuff in. Everyone's moving everything in, and she's like, "Get that damn thing down from there." And it stayed up. I won. It stayed up for a little while, and then it came down. It's hanging up in the basement. I
leave his house, and I go home to talk to Mama Bear. And Mama Bear says, "So how is this guy Chad?" And I said, he's got a picture of Kramer on his living room wall. And she's and the only thing she could muster was, what? So anyway, before Chad gives his pick, I just want you guys to know he's a little out there sometimes, and he's big on anti-ganks. So Chad, who are you taking, Illinois or Nebraska?
Well, I would love. I tell you what, I was not a Matt Rule guy, and I am slowly
And you should be.
into a Matt Rule guy. Those kids love him. They play their butts off for him. I think they're getting to the point they'll run through a wall for him, but the offense isn't quite there yet, and it's doing good. Dylan is a true freshman. He's playing really, really well, but he's a freshman. The running game looks good. The offensive line's playing well. But I'm telling you,
making it. I mean,
that
Too much
Brett
to
Bielema,
prove yet.
that Brett Bielema, when he was at Wisconsin, he owned Nebraska. He owned them.
So
So
I gotta
take
go-
Illinois.
I got to
So
go
what-
with Illinois.
Oh, he's going to Illinois. Jesus.
Brett,
Hey, I got to take a timeout. I need a cigarette now.
Brett, who you taking?
I'm taking the Cornhuskers. Black shirts, baby. Black shirts.
I hope you're right.
I'm
It's
taking
gonna be I think it's going to be a close, old school slobber knocker.
I rest my case. I rest my case, man.
Jesus. Oh my goodness. Give me Nebraska. I'd even take the points. Unreal. Unreal.
Okay.
I don't blame him. When Alabama plays a
Saturday.
big game, I never pick Alabama. I ain't going to.
Saturday, 2:30 on CBS, number 11, USC, favored by 5.5 points, traveling to number 18, Michigan.
I'll go first.
I got USC. Go ahead.
Yeah, USC is going to handle if Texas goes in there and did what they did. USC may not look the same, but they're going to handle Michigan.
Yeah, that's 3. I go with the Trojans. Trojans
Too
are
much
gonna
offense.
snap it to Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fight on.
All right, next game on the docket. Utah's traveling to Oklahoma State. Number 12, Utah. At number 14, Oklahoma State. Utah is a 1.5 point favorite, which I don't get. But I am taking that game is going to be a Saturday 3 o'clock game on Fox. I got Oklahoma State in this one.
I already made my pick. It's Oklahoma State.
Eric's got Oklahoma State. What do you guys think?
Sorry, audience. I want to make an argument here, but Oklahoma State.
If Utah had their regular quarterback and not a freshman,
Correct.
but they don't. Oklahoma State, late field goal.
Ooh. Late
So
field
we've
goal.
got pretty much we got Henry.
Utah. Henry, have you been paying
Henry's
attention
taking-
here?
Henry's taking Utah. We got
Wow.
Rouse with Oklahoma State. Got Jay with Oklahoma State. Brock with Oklahoma State. Then we pretty much got a clean sweep on USC over Michigan by everybody that's listening.
Hey fellas, in honor of Jay, let's pick the Auburn game. I can't even remember who the hell they're playing. Can somebody pull that up real quick? I hate to throw Ed off. He's gonna choke me and kick me out of the group.
We'll go to Tennessee. I'll look it up here. Go to Tennessee and Oklahoma. I'll look
All
up
right,
who
we're
Auburn
going to
has.
go. The next game on the docket is number 6, Tennessee, 7-point favorites, traveling to Oklahoma, who's ranked 15th. I'm going to take Tennessee in this one.
Well, I tell you what, I've made this really good friend and he's a US or he's an SEC guy, and he's been talking up Tennessee for a month and a half. Tell me how good Tennessee is. So I tell you, he's pretty smart. I'm gonna go with Tennessee.
It's Nico's first big road game and that type of atmosphere, so that could kind of get him a little shaky early. But Tennessee right now looks, I think Oklahoma fans, the stadium will be just about empty except for some orange halfway through the fourth quarter. Tennessee by 20.
Oh,
I think it's going to be big. No question. It's Tennessee all the way.
Tennessee's hell this year, guys. They're
So we got
that offense. When Nick Saban says it's the toughest offense to defend, it's the toughest offense to defend.
So we got Russ, Brock, Henry, Marty, Jay, all taking Tennessee.
Yeah.
We've got,
Auburn has Arkansas. We got help out there.
Auburn plays
Auburn has-
Good deal.
but
We got
Auburn is Arkansas. Where's that located?
That is in
Where's that at,
Auburn,
Russ?
and Auburn is a 4-point favorite.
You know, I
Brett,
like
you take
Russ,
this
you
one.
know, like Jay. Y'all go ahead. You guys pick that one. I'll go last.
I'll
I'm
tell
gonna
you what.
take-
Go ahead.
Are we making this an official pick, or is this
Yeah,
just
let's do it. Let's do it.
all right? I'm going with Auburn then. Auburn's at home. They gotta pick it up here a little bit. I'll go Auburn.
I'm going to take them Hogs because my SEC buddy, he's been bragging up Arkansas all month long.
Oh, Chad's got an SEC insider. This is crap.
Mhm.
I'm gonna go Woo Pig because you know who's coming back to Auburn. Auburn went after him many a time when he was at Arkansas before. Oh, Petrino. Auburn just doesn't quite have their quarterback situation settled. I think Arkansas by a field goal. Sorry, Jay.
and I am
Woo
going
Pig.
and this brings back my old high school days. Because in high school, before the Hayden Fry really took hold with Iowa, I was a huge Razorback fan. I had Arkansas Razorback magnet on my mom's fridge and everything. It was all about the Hogs. So I've always
Back
been
before
near and
back before the forward pass.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
So back when Lou Holtz was still head coach at Arkansas.
Wow.
So I'm taking the Hogs. So that's gonna. So as we end up doing 5 college games, how about that?
Yep. Helping out our listener. Helping out is Jay, right? Jay's the Auburn
That's
fan.
it, Jay.
Jay's an
Except he-
Auburn fan. Russ is an Arkansas fan now.
Except
He's
he
big Ar-
took the Hogs. I was trying to go with Jay because I figured everybody else would go Hogs, so I'm trying to help Jay out. And he says, let me see, until they find a pass rush and do something about the secondary, I'm going Hogs. Come on, Jay. If I take a loss in the column because I was trying to support you and you don't even support your own team, I'm gonna lose it.
So Ed, is that anti-gank thing you're talking about? Is that
Yeah.
is that what Jay's doing over there in the comment
Yeah.
section?
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, he might just be an anti-ganker.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope he's trying to do, the old anti. Yeah,
I
y'all
wasn't-
want me to be
I wasn't
honest or
expecting
lie?
that. What did Russ say?
jeez.
So let's do this before we get into our pick or our NFL side of things. Let's go ahead and kick off hour 2, and we'll start off with our NFL power rankings. We'll be right back.
And that's the bottom line. want a war, you're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Back for hour number 2. Time to put on the NFL hats.
NFL time.
So, this is going to be my initial unveiling of Big Daddy Ed's NFL power rankings. I originally had a top 16.
Sorry.
But that ended up being too big of an order for Brett.
That's
So
Brett's fault.
I only could do my top 10, which really leaves my list up for a lot of argument because a lot of the teams that were going to really create discussion was in my 11 through 15 and I had a bubble watch below that.
No, we'll find discussion, I'm
But
sure.
let's put up my top 10 anyway.
Everybody move to the
Everybody's got to
side.
move to the edge so we can see around the corner. So,
Should have done a vertical.
Yeah.
so of course I got KC at number 1. 2 quality wins, Ravens and Bengals.
Well, I was going to have a little referee logo at number 1 too, with a Kansas City logo on the hat, but I figured
You should have. You should have.
Number 2, even though San Francisco lost to the Vikings, I still have them at number 2. Now that I've had time to kind of think about that, I'm kind of a little suspect there because they've really been hit with the injury bug. They're missing Debo. They're missing McCaffrey. I even think Ayuk's hurting a little bit. So I think we're going to see, the discussion's always been how good is Brock Purdy? Can he elevate his team? Well, now's going to be the time for him to show what kind of quarterback he is because he's missing a lot of his stars. So they're going to be looking at Brock to save the day, carry him through. And I think the next couple of weeks could help the 49ers see what kind of a contract that they're going to be willing to offer him. Tampa Bay, number 3. Again, they they beat Washington week 1, not a big deal, but their week 2 win against Detroit in Detroit was a quality win. We had Jeff Barnes on as a NFL scout. He was very high on Tampa. Said that they were kind of a team that was going to be laying in the weeds and was going to make some noise. And so they're got a 2-0 start. So I put them, of course, ahead of Detroit since they beat them at Detroit. Buffalo, I got at number 5. Buffalo, I know they got Josh Allen. I know they're 2-0, but they beat a quarterbackless Miami team. The Cardinals ended up probably being a little better win than we first anticipated after week 1. So Buffalo is that was a good win, but there's still a lot to prove for me before I put Buffalo in the top 4. I mean, I saw some power rankings that actually had Buffalo as high as number 2. I just don't see that yet. Philadelphia, I dropped them to number 6. I could actually see them possibly going a little bit lower than that, but I left them at number 6. The AJ Brown effect, I didn't, Philadelphia. We can talk. Well, let's talk about the Philadelphia game right now. Philadelphia, as far as I'm concerned, again, gave that game away Monday night against Atlanta. You're a 5.5-point favorite at home against a team that has Kirk Cousins at quarterback, who showed you in week 1 that he's a 2-foot by 2-foot quarterback pocket, immobile quarterback. You didn't bring the heat on him at all. Let's start at the beginning. First possession for Philadelphia. Score 0-0. Drive right down the field. Get down to the 9-yard line. Have 4th and 4. Take the points. Go up 3-0. You're at home. Favored by 5.5. You've had a successful drive. Take the points. Have the Atlanta defense go off the field, telling themselves, oh my God, here we go. We didn't stop them. This is the way it's going to be. And instead, you give them a reason by letting them stop you on 4th down to completely change the momentum of the Atlanta defense in that game.
And I'd like to add something to this game, something that was very glaring to me. And I'm very high on Philadelphia's roster, but I'm the exact opposite with their coaching staff. I don't know if you guys watched this game or if any of you listeners watched this game, but that they were even talking about and compliment how strong and dominant Philadelphia's offensive line was on the run blocking. Atlanta had no answer until they got near the goal line and had 8 in the box. They had no answer for the run game. And again, the coach got greedy, analytics, whatever you want to call it, put the points on the board. I'm old school. But what did they do the next 2 or 3 drives afterwards when they were averaging 6-7 yards a carry on the first drive? They started trying to throw the ball. Atlanta had no answer for the run game, none. It was men against boys on that offensive line versus the defensive line. And it was just, to me, again, if Philadelphia doesn't make it to the NFC Championship game this year with this roster, I think this coach is out, and I think he needs to be out. I think the whole coaching staff. I mean, I know I'm just an armchair, but it was obvious Atlanta could not do anything with their run game. Nothing. There was no reason for Philadelphia to lose that game another night.
So let's go back, staying with that Philadelphia game. Your Philadelphia defense has basically kept Atlanta in control the whole game. So what happens on the last drive of the game? Instead of playing the defense that you've played the entire game, you go into a prevent defense that's supposed to do what? Keep the ball between the hash marks, so even when they catch the ball, the clock is running. What happens? They don't even play the prevent defense right. They give two completions on the sideline that allows them to get out of bounds and not even have to use their timeouts. So Atlanta takes the ball at their own 32-yard line with 1:39 left. Here's their consecutive plays with this prevent defense. 11 yards, 21 yards, 26 yards, 5 yards. Within 51 seconds of getting the ball, they were already at the Philadelphia 12-yard line. After they
in a matter of seconds. It was that quick.
They had spent the entire game pretty much keeping Kirk Cousins under control. That whole last drive, they didn't rush any more than 4 people. 4 linemen was all they rushed. Kirk Cousins sat back there. I don't care. Any quarterback in the NFL, if you give him time, is going to pick you apart, especially if you're in a prevent defense, for Christ's sake. So not only do you go into prevent, you put 0 pressure on Kirk Cousins. I mean, it was to me, guys, haven't we? Again, we're only spectators that's watching these games on TV. We're not coaches. We're not being paid. We're not. How can we sit on our couch and see things so blatantly obvious that defensive coordinators sit there and do this prevent over and over again? Who else agrees or disagrees?
I agree. The prevent defense, I've said this for years. They're in the prevent defense. They're trying to prevent a win. I mean, you can watch a defense dominate an offense. Even if it's a close game, but it looks like, man, that defense, man, they can't throw the ball. As soon as they get into that prevent, it's like you almost eviscerate your defense. And they become soft. And all of a sudden they're giving things up. I mean, I've watched it. I watched Matt Ryan one time against the Bears. This would have been a while ago. There's 34 seconds on the clock. Matt Ryan takes him down, moves the ball like, 50 yards, field goal. I mean, I've seen it time and time again. And to me, I mean, I get the premise. The premise is we're going to keep them in bounds, which the Eagles did not do. We're going to make them eat the clock. We're going to keep any deep threat of a touchdown away. And then when they get down inside the 20, we'll try to lock it down. But the problem the Eagles have had last year and clearly into this year is they're not very good on the back half. They're just not. They're not very good on the back half. I mean, I could see it coming. Watching Kirk Cousins standing there with no pressure, delivering strikes to former Bear Darnell Mooney, who had 2 big catches on that last drive, and he was picking them apart, and I thought, my God, they're going to choke this game off. And that is exactly what they did. Now, when it comes to the prevent defense, I've seen many other teams do the same thing. But Philadelphia, their strength, I mean, I think people would argue that, let's take for the Bears, for example. One of their strengths is their secondary. Our secondary is pretty good. Yeah. That's not the Eagles' strength. No. And it was like, you're going to let them get inside the 20 as easily as they did and then think that your secondary is going to hold up? I mean, London was so open on that touchdown pass, I could have caught that. I mean, come on, man. What are we doing? Nick Sirianni, at the start of the season, they all said he's on the hot seat. That game put him 100% in my book on the number 1 NFL coaching hot seat because of the expectations, because of that roster, and because of what Philadelphia expects. He's in trouble. He's in trouble. You have a couple more clunkers here and there, and I'm telling you, they are going to be burning Philadelphia down to get to Sirianni. They're going to want him bad.
Well, they spent that early, but round 2 pick on Cooper DeJean? He played 3 or 4 snaps?
Yeah. I mean, if your secondary was so damn good, they picked the kid up from Alabama, correct, Brett?
Yeah. Hell, I can't even. The name's not even ringing a bell.
Mine either. But they got the kid from Alabama.
2 early picks on DB.
Yes, they got the kid from Alabama in the first round. And then they got Cooper DeJean in the second round, and you're thinking to yourself, well, how long is it before we see these two paired up? Or even, DeJean at safety. They talked about him free safety, and then the Alabama kid at corner.
Well, Kool-Aid went to the Saints, and Arnold went to the Lions. I can't think of which one you're talking about.
But they had Cooper in the slot for a couple of plays, and that was it.
But
Yeah.
but again, you're the head coach. You've got to know your team's weakness. And it was so obvious. They didn't have to run, the starting running back for Philadelphia, Barkley. They didn't have to run him into the ground. It didn't matter who they had at running back. The Atlanta defensive line had no answer for it. You could have had, I even mentioned it to Ed or somebody. I said, hell, I could average 4 yards a carry the way they're blocking. Yeah, the Atlanta line. And they went totally away from the run. It's like –
I apologize, Brett. I put you in a bad spot. They drafted Quinyon Mitchell.
Okay.
So, I mean, you draft a corner in the first round, and then your first pick in the second round, you draft another corner.
But they're
help
rookies
out.
again. They
I
can't,
get it.
they can't cover big time receivers. Not yet.
I get it.
Don't know
Man.
that until you let them. The guys you got in there
There's-
can't cover them.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Their secondary is atrocious.
Might as well put the kids in and give them a shot.
I
We
mean,
need to talk about
Play
number
work.
7, guys. Number 7 on Ed's list, the Saints. What about the New Orleans Saints?
well, so as I look at Ed's list
Better be
here,
careful drinking that Kool-Aid.
I mean, I look at Ed's list here, and I remember the discussion we had, and looking at these teams, okay, and as I look at his top, I mean, this would be, if we want to pick it apart, because we're all NFL guys too.
Well, before we pick, let's.
You can finish it out. You finish your rankings out. And then I'm gonna pick the shit out of it.
I expected nothing less.
Go ahead, Ed. I think you left off with the Saints or the Eagles, I guess.
Well, we got through the Saints, so let's keep on going. So the Houston Texans come in at number 8. As much as you really want to, they're a 2-0 team, yes, but they're just, they beat Indianapolis, who went up to Green Bay and got beat by Green Bay's what?
Malik Willis.
Malik Willis. So then they turn around on Sunday Night Football and was in a fist fight with a team that hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet this season. Now, granted, Chicago's defense is legit. I give you that. But really, that game was somewhere between watching paint dry and mowing the lawn type of the game. There was nothing there offensively from Houston that excited me at all. Dallas, everybody loves to make fun of Dallas, including myself. Dallas is one of those teams where they're probably the only team in the NFL that every time they win during the regular season, they're a Super Bowl contender. They're going to be in the Super Bowl. And then they turn around and lose. And when I say lose, they lose ugly. So there's just zero momentum with Dallas. But I had them hanging in there at number 9. Minnesota, I put them at 10. On the surface, I had to give them credit for beating San Francisco, because no matter what you say, San Francisco is a quality win. So I got them at number 10. But if my list would have been complete here, I had a top 16. So let's talk about the teams I had at 11 through 15, because those are really the teams that strike conversation should they be in the top 15. At number 11, I had 0-2 Cincinnati. 2 losses, but they're notoriously slow starting. For whatever reason, they always start slow. But Cincinnati, I had at number 11. Number 12, I had Baltimore, another 0-2 team.
And where are the Cardinals on this list?
The Cardinals I have at
the mighty Cardinals.
I got the Cardinals at number 15. Because you look at that big win that they had against the Rams this last weekend. The Rams had nobody.
Yeah, nobody. The
They
Rams
had
are in trouble.
Nobody that game.
The Rams are in trouble.
They had both their wide receivers were out.
Cooper was there for part of the game.
Till he had 3 catches. Well, for Cooper, that's like the first quarter.
yeah, the first half of the first quarter.
Doesn't
So I had
explain the
Arizona
defense.
at 15. But Cincinnati and Baltimore, 11-12, both at 0-2. These two teams are in trouble. Neither one of these teams can go 0-3. You've got Baltimore traveling to Dallas.
And who knows
Baltimore
what in the
has
world's
to
going to happen
win.
with that game? Who knows?
Baltimore has to win that game, without a doubt. Baltimore has to win that game. Cincinnati.
What happens if Baltimore does not win that game?
I think
They
you
won't be
start
making the
hearing-
playoffs.
I think you start hearing rumblings of John Harbaugh being gone.
I think so.
I think the rumblings start.
Yep.
It might not be loud, but they're going to start. They will start.
If a coach quarterback combination does not win a Super Bowl in their first 5 years together, they never win it.
Yeah.
Straight up fact.
Jay, Jay says here, everyone was singing Cincinnati's praises before the season. They do that every season.
Me too.
3 years in a row.
Cincinnati is a top team picked every year. And for whatever reason, they start the season slow.
They had Kansas City beat on the road. Cincinnati will absolutely, in my eyes, make it to the playoffs and contend for the AFC Championship this year if most of their key parts stay healthy. Baltimore looks like a train wreck.
They do. They do. I agree with Brett. If
They're
I'm
in big
Kansas
trouble.
City, I'd want to see Baltimore way before I would want to see Cincinnati.
You know,
And, and everybody wanted to jump on the bandwagon and say Kansas City once again got bailed out at the end of the game by the refs. But you watch that play over and over and over, it's pass interference every time. And if he doesn't have pass interference, he probably catches that ball. Either way, they're in field goal range. They're in field goal range to win the game.
You know what's funny? You say that. I'm going to tell you this. After all the video evidence of all the holds that were missed in the Super Bowl, I heard a stat today. Do you realize that Patrick Mahomes has had, it was either 17 or 17 interceptions saved by penalty?
In the last
yep, the most in the league. I shared that to the Bottom Line Facebook page.
Most in the league.
Man.
I couldn't remember where I saw it, but come on,
earlier
man.
In the fourth quarter, you saw Jamar Chase completely lose it and get a 15-yard penalty at a very crucial point in the game. Did he hurt his stock any? If nothing else, he should have hurt his stock with his team because
he's a diva receiver, man.
It's
what they are.
In that same game, what player that's playing for the Chiefs and is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer used to do that stuff all the time and get 15-yard stupid penalties all the time?
Ocho Cinco.
Travis Kelce used to do this stupid stuff all the
time. Yeah.
He'd make a great play, and then he'd get in some defensive player's face and do stupid shit. Boom. Be like you.
But it's like, here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have. And they did a poll. I think it was the most annoying players or something. And Mahomes and Kelce, I think Kelce was like 2 and Mahomes was like 4 or something like that. And I just thought to myself, and I think Jay mentions it, Taylor Swift, I think that's part of Kelce's deal. But, I've watched them do all sorts of things, and they get a pass because they are like, I don't know. Everybody's in love with Kansas City, and that's fine. They're a great team. They've accomplished a ton. That's fine. But what Kansas City gets passes for, other teams do not. Now, I can't remember if I was talking to Ed or I was texting during the game when they called that pass interference. And I texted, I said, you know what? If that was, last year before, if that's Justin Fields making that throw and that happens to our receiver, that's not getting called. I watched I watched Caleb Williams get absolutely obliterated after a throw, and the throw was gone.
Yep.
No flag.
No
If
flag.
that's Patrick Mahomes, there's 8 flag. The back line, the back
Flags and
judge.
hats and
Yeah, the back judge is throwing a flag from the goalpost. Like, I get to those points where I'm like, I don't want to bag on Kansas City, but if you can't see that there are things, and it happened with Tom Brady as well. Tom Brady got breathed on wrong. Here come the flag. But I watched Justin Fields for years get absolutely crushed.
What about Jay Cutler?
No flag.
My
Jay
God.
Cutler, you know.
It's that way in every league. Superstars bring in the eyeballs. Superstars generate the revenue. Superstars get protected.
That's why I'm sorry. I know we're not supposed to be biased, but I don't care who wins the Super Bowl this year as long as it's not Kansas City. And whoever knocks Kansas City out is going to damn well have to earn it because they're going to have to beat them and the refs. And that's just
100%.
I opened my eyes to that last year with Kansas City. I'm like, hold on. You know, go back and watch the Super Bowl from the time before. Like, they're doing the same things this team's doing, but this team's getting flagged. You know what? You know.
Again, I've seen the video. It's been broken down. There was probably 10 holds in the Super Bowl, tackles that were not called. And I just think to myself, if
There's
that's
holding on every play.
Well, yes,
hands to the face on every play.
But I'm talking about at the point of attack.
There's defensive holding on every play. The defensive tackle is grabbing 2 offensive linemen on every play.
Look, I seen Bosa in the Super Bowl last year get diddied over and over and over again, and he probably should file charges. You know,
Right.
I mean,
but hey, we don't want to bag on Kansas City anymore. Ed's got to get to 13 and 14 so I can tear into this list. Okay. He's got to get to 13 and 14 because I want to tear into this list. And then we're going to have to move on, but I want to tear into this list just a little bit.
Number 13, I had Green Bay 1-1. They had they lost to Philly in the opener in Brazil, and then I don't know what the Colts were doing, but that was they totally took care of the Colts for sure. 14, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers 2-0. But they just don't impress me. Yes, they have a defense, but in the NFL, you got to put points on the board. And as much as they believe in Justin Fields, he's going to come crash. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Number 15, I got Arizona Cardinals.
Chad's Arizona Cardinals.
Chad's Arizona Cardinals at 1-1 at number 15. My five bubble teams, the Chargers, Browns, Seahawks, Dolphins, and Jets are my next 5. They're on the bubble watch. They're trying to get on Big Daddy.
Okay. Let's look at Big Daddy Ed's list. It's easy. You know, when you look at Chad's kind of a Big Ten guy, so is Ed. So I mean, they could argue a little bit about that. You know, I'm a Big 12 guy. Brett's an SEC guy. You know, so we don't really get after each other for our lists and those things. However, in the NFL, I think we can all be pointed on this. I'm okay with Kansas City at the top. Keeping San Francisco in the 2-hole, unacceptable. I would say San Francisco somewhere around 4. You can't lose to Minnesota. I get it was on the road. It's tough. It's NFL. Playing on the road's tough.
The 49ers have not won in Minnesota since 1993.
Right. Correct. I mean, so I get that. But, I mean, you got to penalize them for it. And taking them from 2 to, say 4 is probably about right. You got to penalize them for it. Tampa Bay at 3. Are they a top 10 team right now? Yeah. I mean, but I would say probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 to 8, as high as 6, maybe. But
look at Eric. If you look at last week's power rankings, and these weren't my power rankings,
right?
And number 2 was Detroit. Number 3 was San Francisco. Number 4 was Baltimore. 2, 3, and 4 all lost. So when you've got the likes of teams like, well, the top, even the number 5 team, Philadelphia, lost. So you're talking the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th power ranked team all lost. Tampa Bay was sitting in the number 6 hole.
Right.
All right.
If we're
Right.
if you're just going to look at the power rankings from if you're just going to look at the power rankings from wins and losses, okay, then you can't put Cincinnati and Baltimore at 11 and 12. If we're just going by wins and losses and moving guys based on positions, if we're not going to look at the entirety of the team, if we're not going to look at those types of things, like everybody knows, unless something seriously happens in the injury bug, San Francisco is going to be a top 3 team. That's probably going to happen. But, losing to Minnesota does drop them. You got to drop them. You got to drop them some. I mean, they got to earn their way back to at least the top 3 when you lose a game to Minnesota. Now, they could come back. I think they play the Raiders this week. If they stomp the Raiders, that makes sense. But the Bucks are not that team yet that I think you put, into the top 3. I mean, like I said, 6 or 8, okay. I think the Lions, you had the Lions at 4. I mean, I'm okay with that because Jared Goff had a really bad day. Like the Lions fans they're not going to turn on Campbell. They're going to turn on Goff. He had a really bad day. And that was all over the news, Monday, Tuesday, whatever. He had a bad day. So I'm okay with. I still think the Lions are going to be a top team. I still think the Lions are going to win the North. I'm not. That is what it is. The Bills need to be higher. I would argue if I had a quarterback power ranking right now, Josh Allen would be at the top of that quarterback ranking. And I'll tell you why. Because all I heard before the season, and we talked about it on this show, is, well, I guess Josh Allen is going to have to prove now that he's that quarterback because Buffalo has nothing. Now we'll see what Josh Allen is made of. I'm going to tell you right now, in the first 2 weeks of the season, you have found out what Josh Allen is made of. And to put them down, I mean, I guess, I think you had them, at 5? I mean, okay. I think they should be higher because when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen that can show you, that has showed us through the first 2 weeks, that he is, in my eyes, at the top of the quarterback power rankings right now, I think they're too low. I think if you're going to look at the fact that the 2 through 5 lost, and you're going to tell me right now that you would take a Baker Mayfield-led team over a Josh Allen-led team, no chance. I'll take Buffalo all day long.
I still say that Buffalo's defense has been unchallenged, and with the extent of loss that they had in the offseason, especially in defensive back and at safety, they sure in the hell didn't get challenged last week against Miami because when Tua left the game, their replacement was nothing.
I get it.
Do nothing.
But when did Tua go out of that game? Third quarter, right? Third quarter?
No, it was before half, wasn't it?
I want to say it was the third quarter.
Well, regardless. The other game they had was Arizona. Arizona, say what you want. Chad thinks they're going to win 10, 12, 13 games. But Arizona has never been a road team ever.
Right.
So to think Arizona was going to go in Buffalo and give them a knockdown, drag-out fight,
but
I don't, and to see what Arizona scored against Buffalo in Buffalo, I'm just not sold on Buffalo's defense yet. That doesn't mean they're not going to have a good defense. I'm just not sold on Buffalo's defense yet.
But what Buffalo, at what point in time in that Miami game, Tua or no Tua, did you say, wow, Miami's giving Buffalo everything they can handle? At no point. Buffalo dominated that game from start to finish, in my opinion. So Tua, no Tua, Buffalo was going to win that game. That's a big game. They were on the road, and Josh Allen took that over, and it was over. Okay. When you have a quarterback show that he can do that with, I think we all agreed at the beginning of the season, we were talking about Buffalo. Clearly their the skill positions and things were down. So it was going to have to be more Josh Allen. Guess what? It has been more Josh Allen. So I feel like Josh Allen and the Bills have earned that right to be higher. I'm not saying you're wrong with what you said, but taking Tampa Bay to 3 and moving and having Buffalo at 5, I can't agree with that. Because right now, I mean, you look at the numbers that Mahomes put up this weekend. Mahomes had the lowest passing game in his entire career when he finished a game, 157 yards. I mean, Josh Allen is balling. And if he can do that,
didn't have to ball against Miami. Against Miami, it was all James Cook. Well, I mean, Miami gave them zero threat in that game. Buffalo could have called off the dogs in the first half. That game was over.
But your argument was that, it was because Tua was gone. When Tua was there,
Tua was gone. Miami's offense was non-existent.
Even when Tua was in there,
it
was over. Right? Even when Tua was in there, it was over. He had how many? What did he throw? 3 picks?
3 picks.
But Buffalo, for some reason, and I'm a Tua fan, Buffalo absolutely owns Tua. And Buffalo, what is Josh Allen now? 7 or 8-0 on Thursday nights?
7-0.
I have no excuses except
12-2 against Miami.
Buffalo just absolutely. And again, it's, I hate to cut in, but, I got to defend my boy Tua. They knew before the haters come out, they knew what they were getting with Tua when they got him. Now, you get a guy like Tua, you got a special skill set, but you've got to have an offensive line because the kid is frail. And just ask Troy Aikman. Once you get a couple bad concussions, it's like having a heat stroke. You're a lot more apt. Even they brought that up the other night. You're a lot more apt to having more and more and more.
Correct.
And I mean, Tua I think he can have a successful career. I don't know how many more years he's got in him, but you draft a guy like that. I'm going with this because I'm an Alabama guy, so I had to be rude and cut in. The Bryce Young thing in Carolina, he ain't got a damn thing to work with. And even Eric mentioned, and someone else mentioned the other day, you got to hurry up and get Bryce out of Carolina before you ruin his career. Well,
100%.
You got all these weapons at Miami. You've got a little guy that's very accurate. I mean, he's been in the Pro Bowl the last 2 years. His passing numbers are fantastic, but he's small and he can't take a hit. Why don't you have an offensive line? Why are these teams continuing, like my brother mentioned? Why are the Carolinas and the Bears and the Dolphins going out and getting these great quarterbacks, right? And they're getting mauled. Bears Caleb Williams showed me a lot of heart the other night because he got the hell beat out of him.
Yes.
Period. We had no answer. D'Amico Ryan said, you know what? When we bring 5, they ain't got no answer for it. Bring 5. And every time they brought 5, the kid had no chance. And so, I have a problem with people hating on Bryce or Caleb or Tua. They have no line. And Bryce has no weapons. He has nothing. So, I just had to cut in and
I agree. Go ahead, Chad.
Let's talk about this list as a whole. So each one of you, I'm going to give each one of you a pair of glass slippers. Which team on Ed's top 10 are you giving those glass slippers to? Which team is not deserving of being in this top team and is going to crumble? Who you got? I'm giving mine to the Saints. My glass
Man.
slippers go to the New Orleans Saints.
I mean,
My-
look, they
wanted
beat up
them to
on
the
Carolina,
Vikings,
which I don't think Carolina's going to win a game this year. I think we can all agree they probably won't win one game. But and then I know Dallas, but Dallas has got a lot of talent, and New Orleans trashed them. They trashed them. That new OC, the OC for New Orleans, he will be a head coach in NFL next year.
I'm going to
I
put the
mean,
list back up. Jay wants to see the list again. You know, so there's Ed's top 10.
So Brett, who are you giving your pair
Who,
of glass
who are you giving your glass slipper to?
Not to hate on Ed, but it would probably be Minnesota or hold on now, or Philadelphia. You've got top 5 talent. I think all of us in here can agree that other than their back
So
end,
you don't think that at the end of the season the Eagles aren't in the playoffs?
hey, they lost what? Did they make the playoffs last year?
Okay. All right.
I'm gonna say now. Look, we can take Minnesota a lot of ways. Their defense is playing, but how long can their defense keep them in it? I think they could end up winning 7, 8, 9 games this year. But Philadelphia, they keep on losing, and they're going to lose the locker room just like he did last season. And if you're losing to Atlanta at home, I'd love to see their next 3 or 4 games because Philadelphia's in trouble. They had no business losing Monday night. None.
So you're giving your slippers to the Eagles.
Yeah.
Your slipper goes to you. So if I look at Ed's top 10, so I agree. So if I just say the top 10, I think Kansas City deserves to be in the top 10, obviously. San Francisco. I think Tampa Bay deserves to be in the top 10. Lions, Buffalo, Eagles. Houston needs to be higher than 8. I mean, Houston needs to be higher than 8. Dallas is not a top 10 team right now. You don't get blown out 44-19 and consider yourself a top 10. Do they have a lot of talent? Absolutely.
So
But
you're giving your glass slipper to the Cowboys.
No, my glass slipper is going to go to Minnesota. I know they beat San Francisco, and that's a good win. There's no doubt about that. But it's not really going on a limb saying, hey, the number 10 in the top team is a glass slipper, because I think you got a great case, Chad. I don't know if New Orleans can continue to do what they're doing. So I can absolutely agree with New Orleans being the glass slipper. I also agree with Brett when I say, look what happened to Philadelphia last year. Nick Sirianni's still there.
You know,
They had players that the coaches didn't say anything after the game. It was Jalen Hurts leading the speech after the game. I mean, they've proven it once. You lose the locker room in Philadelphia, they can prove it again that if they lose it in Philadelphia, that they're out. So I don't think that it's too far out there for Brett to say that, Philadelphia could absolutely go south, because we saw it last year. I mean, what were they, 1-6 in their last 7 games after starting, 10-1 or 10, 9-1, whatever.
they were 5-2 and then lost 7 in a row or something like
Yeah,
it was
they had a
crazy.
hell of a I think it was like 9-1, and then they went 1-6.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and here's the deal. I don't disagree. Is Minnesota going to be a top 10 at the end of the year? Probably not. Dallas probably is, even though, again, getting blown out 44-19. We're going to see Baltimore on this list by the end of the year, I think. We're going to see Cincinnati on this list at the end of the year, I think. Saints could easily be that one. Philadelphia could be that one. Tampa Bay could be that one. I mean, Baker's rolling right now. I get it. But, the NFL season is a long year.
So we're talking glass slipper here. So you took Minnesota. So I would say my glass slipper team is definitely the Minnesota Vikings. But I will say, as of now, put your hands together.
Yeah.
Sam, we
Jesus.
trust. Sam
Uh,
freaking Darnold for now.
I mean, yeah,
Who does Minnesota have this week?
Houston.
They play Houston.
All right, well, we can
Roll.
end this conversation then.
Yeah. We'll see if somehow Houston can get out of Ed's 8 spot on his power rankings. So
Well, I do agree with Ed on one thing. The poor Bears, I mean, look, they could not block. I mean, it was literally our defense against their offense the whole game. And you would have thought at some point our defense would have finally got worn out. And you got to give the Bears defense credit. They hung in there, man. They did everything they could to keep us in the game.
but here's
So
the
that's an
problem.
alarming sign for Houston. I agree with Ed on that.
We got 2 things to do yet. We got games to pick and we got the hot topic to hit. But I also want to get a word from our sponsor. So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get into our picks quick. One more thing about our sponsor, Wild Sun, and then we'll move on. This weekend, for all you guys close to St. Louis, Hillsboro, Missouri, this weekend, Saturday from noon to 4, is the Wild Sun Customer Appreciation. They was voted here this last week as St. Louis's #1 winery. So this Saturday, Customer Appreciation, we're going to be roasting a hog, 190-pound hog, that I will be doing with a group of friends starting about noon on Friday. We'll have it on the pit. We'll start serving at noon on Saturday. We're also going to have a couple sides, one being my legendary baked beans that you won't want to miss. So anybody that's in the St. Louis area, make plans to go to Hillsboro. I'm
going to tell you, if you have the opportunity to patronize Wild Sun, it's good stuff. Every time Ed comes back or I come down to St. Louis, I load up because it is good stuff. So I don't know. Do they ship, Ed? Can they ship? Like, how does that even work? You know, for people who want to give it a
we can only ship if the state that the wine is going to allows it.
Okay.
So it's kind of a state by state thing.
Right.
But we used to always have the hog roast customer appreciation in July. And the very first year I did it, I think it's been like the 7th year now. First year we did it, I did a 70-pound, I like to call it a piglet, because we didn't really know what we were getting into. So I did 70 pounds, and over the course of the last 6-7 years, it's grown from 70 pounds to 190 pounds. So we're getting into uncharted territory here, and the grease fire possibility is getting real. So as of right now, we have food that we plan on serving. If it goes terribly wrong Friday night, we'll at least be serving coleslaw and baked beans. So,
okay, we got to roll. Here. So we've already talked a little bit about did the Eagles give the game away to the Falcons? We talked about that. I firmly believe they did. There's no question. It was third. What was it? 3rd and 4. You've been averaging about 3.5 yards per rush against the Falcons. You've got 2 downs to do it. I mean, I don't know what Sirianni was thinking. You know, there's only one good thing. I know you can say all Saquon has to do is catch the ball and it's over. I get it, but that happens. You take the handoff twice from Saquon. If he can't get you 3.5 yards, 4 yards to get the first down, then the Falcons got to go the whole length of the field, whatever. But we did kind of touch on that a little bit. Next one here, are the Saints for real? Who wants to take this? We'll give you 2 minutes to take this. Are the Saints for real? Chad, I'm going to give this one to you.
I don't need 2 minutes. If you're leaning on Derek Carr, you're leaning on a broken cane that's going to snap and your fat ass is going to fall to the ground.
Okay. So, in Chad's opinion, the Saints are not for real. And if you are a Who Dat fan, I apologize for Chad's colorful metaphor. But his opinion is the Saints are not for real.
I've just seen Derek Carr collapse season after season after season after season.
Yes.
I mean, he has been given so many opportunities, and all he can muster up being is a lukewarm quarterback. And that's fine. He's going to win you some games. He's going to put up some stats here and there, but it's not going to do it. And they're on fire right now, and that's okay. Yeah. So Sam Darnold, that's okay. But we're 2 games in, and
the cream rises to the top.
Just as a public service announcement, the views expressed by anybody on the bottom line do not necessarily reflect the entire bottom line crew. So just want to get that out there.
Tough group, if that was that hurtful.
Next one, Bryce Young is benched in favor of the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. Brett, good move or bad move?
Absolutely a good move. They should have got a line before they even drafted Bryce. Should have had somebody that he could throw the ball to. Look, I feel sorry for Andy Dalton. We've had him here in Chicago. He's a tough kid. And he's going to have to be. But if they want and think, they gave up so much for Bryce. And, us Bears fans are still reaping those rewards. We get their second-round pick next year, which will be the first pick of the second round. We'll fix our offensive line in next year's draft. But anyways, I really do. Bryce did some special things here. And I know he's undersized. He doesn't have the concussion issues like Tua, but they've got to make a decision. And now they need to hit free agency and they need to draft. I mean, either he's your franchise quarterback or he's not. If he's not, go on and move him somewhere where he's got a shot to survive and actually have a decent career moving forward.
And I hate it for Dalton.
What's that?
What kind of trade value does he have, though?
Well, I mean, they can tell it, hey, he can take a beating.
Can you imagine? Listen, okay, we've already gone through the list of what the Bears have used Carolina to kind of put together.
Right.
Can you imagine if Carolina ships him off for like a 5th-round pick? I mean, it would instantly wipe away the Herschel Walker trade. It would instantly wipe it away.
Carolina should have been our hot topic tonight because that franchise is an absolute dumpster fire. My God, the owner got fined for throwing a drink on a fan last year. and you know what? The fan did not deserve it. The fan had every right to say whatever he was saying to that man. That franchise is a dumpster fire. That makes the Commanders look like they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, they're a dumpster fire, and the fire trucks are going the other way. So it's bad. Real quick on this, I'm going to go right around the room here. Ed, I'm going to start with you. Who are you panicking on in the NFL? Player, franchise? Who are you panicking on?
I'd say the biggest panic this week is Baltimore. They are in a must-win situation against Dallas. They have to beat Dallas. So wouldn't it, to make them 1-2 means Dallas has to go 1-2. And imagine what the Dallas fans would be saying if they start the season 1-2. So I say Baltimore without a doubt.
Brett, who you got? Who you panicking on?
Absolutely 100% Baltimore. That's absolutely who I have. But now if I'm Philadelphia Eagles, you don't want to go 1-2. You don't, that with their upcoming schedule and everything. But I agree with Ed. Baltimore, it's winter. You go 0-3, that season's done, and they might totally just scrap everything and just do a total rebuild in Baltimore.
Chad, who you panicking on?
Boy, I want to try and go someplace else other than you guys have already gone. I'm going to go Detroit. They got to go to Arizona, to my hot Cardinals. They just keep blowing it, and I got to go on the road. I'm going to go with Detroit.
Okay. My panic right now, Brett, Baltimore, Ed, you're 1,000% right. They go 0-3. I think they're cooked. There's going to be all sorts of things happen. Brett, again, you're right with Baltimore, but then you mentioned Philadelphia. We've seen how Philadelphia pushes the panic button.
Oh,
It ain't good. It is 100% not good. And Chad, you're right. I mentioned, Jared Goff looked bad. Detroit's got a lot of expectations. Remember we talked about this at the beginning of the year. I don't remember which show it was. But we said Detroit snuck up on people last year.
Yep.
And that, we're expecting man, they're really good.
On them.
But the pressure is on. So let's see how Detroit reacts to that. Okay. My panic button is going to go to the Dallas Cowboys. And I'll tell you why. You have all this talent. You've got CeeDee Lamb taken care of. You've got Dak Prescott, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. How in the hell do you lose to who dat at home 44-19? How do you lay an egg like that at home? Even Micah Parsons came out and said, there's loafs all over the field. It wasn't good. We weren't motivated. What in the hell is that?
They stomped a mud hole in Dallas.
To me, that is just unbelievable. Okay. Jay says, what about the Packers and Dolphins? I agree. The Finns panic button with Tua because they have nobody behind him.
I agree. I don't know what
I
Dolphins
didn't expect that much out of Miami, though. I didn't expect Miami to be a playoff team.
Here's the deal. I felt Miami could be a playoff team, but when we're talking about
clean and healthy.
But when we're talking about AFC Championship, potential Super Bowl, I did not see Miami in that conversation. No. So I'm talking about, I guess when I say panic button, when I say hitting the panic button, I'm talking about teams that we're looking at being in the Final Four, maybe even the Super Bowl. I know we talk. I guess pardon me for mentioning Dallas if I think Final Four and Super Bowl, but what do they talk about all year? Like Jerry Jones, we got to get the Super Bowl type of thing, type of talk. So Dallas has to be what the hell just happened?
Must see TV is when they show Jerry Jones in the skybox while Dallas is getting their asses kicked. That's some good watching right there. It really is.
Yes. Okay. So then our last topic, and we're going to spend a few minutes on this one. Or Ed, do you want to save this one?
I think, Eric, we need to save this one because
this needs to be a bigger debate.
We start talking analytics.
Yes.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Yes.
So let's table that. I know it's supposed to be the hot topic, but I think we're gonna move that to next week, and we're gonna go right into the picks.
Yeah, let's go to the picks then. We're gonna table. So we will table analytics for next week. So here's the picks. They'll be scrolling on the bottom here.
Okay, first game we got Chicago 1-1 at Indianapolis, who's 0-2. Indianapolis is a 2-point favorite. I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts to get their first win of the season at home. They're a different team when they play at home.
Yeah, if Chicago has no signs of being able to figure out their offensive line situation, whether or not they need to shuffle some guys around or bench some guys or fire the offensive line coach. I don't know what the answer is, but I'm going Colts.
Brett?
Yeah, and until the Bears can prove they can actually block someone, Caleb stands no chance. And I'll take the Colts in a close one. The Bears defense will keep us in it.
You know what? Screw you guys. Give me the freaking Bears. They're going to get something figured out. Indianapolis took a hit on defense, and they weren't very good on defense to begin with. They took a hit on defense. I'd have to look back. We don't have time for it.
I don't know if our offensive line could block my spin move, Eric.
Well, but I'm telling you.
Brock, Jay, and Henry, all three take the Bears.
Yeah. The Indianapolis Colts took a hit on defense, and I apologize for not having the name, but it's an anchor on their defense. So that's
again. I'll be happy if I'm wrong.
Oh,
right. I'll take the Bears. I'm going to go on a limb if it costs me.
Okay, next game, Houston 2-0 at Minnesota 2-0. Houston is a 1.5-point favorite. Who you got, Eric?
Houston.
Well, you got that warm weather team going up there to play in the cold. Oh, wait a minute. Houston.
They make it snow in there.
Snow
in there.
Yeah. It's called cocaine. It's not the same thing.
Give me Houston. Chad's got Houston. What do you got, Brett?
Houston by a field goal.
Come on, Ed. I took the Bears.
I would be remiss. In Sam frickin' Darnold we trust until he proves otherwise.
It's Caesar Sam.
I'm going with Caesar Sam. The Minnesota Vikings in an upset at home to go 3-0. So then when I run my top 10 next week, no one will have anything to say about it. Philadelphia, 2.5-point favorites. They're 1-1 at New Orleans, who is 2-0.
Chad, what do you got there, Chad?
Saints.
Oh, Ed's going right away.
I think Philly needs to get out of town. I think that's going to help. They're going to go on the road, get away from all that noise. I think I got Philly and Derek Carr is going to be Derek Carr. Philly's going to win it.
What do you got, Brett?
Man, in the Superdome, it's going to be lit. Them wild Cajuns going to be staggering around, hollering. Jalen ain't going, it's going to be loud. Who Dat Nation and Philadelphia, the screaming and the brush fires are going to start. Philadelphia goes 1-2, Saints by 10 in the Superdome.
Philly goes to 1-2. Give me the Saints.
There you go. Okay.
Who dat?
We've got
Who Dat Nation?
Jay says the Eagles in a tough one. Brock says the Eagles. And Jay says Ricola. Okay, we got the LA Chargers 2-0 at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is a 2-point favorite at home. Chad.
Is this a noon game?
This is a 12 o'clock game on CBS.
Yeah, I got to go with the rough and tumble Steelers. TJ Watt and my boy Justin Fields going to win this game. Give me the Steelers.
Eric?
Chargers. I'm not going against Jim.
Brett?
Steelers. And this is going to be a ground and pound, old school, early 80s style game.
There is no damn way Justin Fields is going 3-0. No way.
I got the LA Chargers. I think that Pittsburgh had two unimpressive wins. Pittsburgh beat Atlanta and Broncos.
You know what pisses me off about the Chargers?
Eric, you better get on your knees. You better pray every night this week that the Chargers go in and win that game.
I don't need to. They're going to rush for
You better
185
pray.
yards.
You
They're going
better
to be fine.
sacrifice a goat or a cat.
And just as you're pushing and getting used to saying Los Angeles Chargers, there is groundswell that there's going to be a push to get ownership to take them back to San Diego.
You know what? I love it because it just doesn't sound the same.
No.
San Diego Superchargers. You can't go Los Angeles Superchargers. It just doesn't sound right.
San Diego's been pushing for a XFL spring football team for years too. They had one in 2019 with the AAF.
Henry and Brock both say Chargers as well. Next game, Baltimore's a 1-point favorite at 0-2 on the road at Dallas, who's 1-1.
Brett, what do you got? Jesus, is this a tough one? Look.
How about them Cowboys?
Oh my goodness.
My buddy Marty's a Dallas fan. Russ is a Dallas fan, and then
Henry
a couple of admins a Dallas fan. Hell, I pull for Dallas too. You know,
You do?
Well, not.
Listen,
you know,
Ed, we need to have a conversation about Brett. He just verbally said he pulls for Dallas.
Just
Shut up, Brett. Shut up, Brett. Shut up, Brett. Shut up, Brett. Shut up. Ed, who you taking?
Like I said, Green Bay.
I got Baltimore. I cannot see them going 0-3.
Woo!
Give me Baltimore.
I think Baltimore in desperate mode. Lamar Jackson will carry the ball 40 times if he has to.
Jesus. Piss off, Brett. You're in the corner.
Chad, who
you got?
Brett, I'm going to sit on your lap. I'm going Cowboys.
Oh, my God. Ed, I thought we screened this a lot better.
I'm telling you, Harbaugh and him have been together too long.
It's time for
one of them's got to go.
Hey, is it too early to call this game the Desperation Bowl for both teams?
No, you ain't kidding.
Yeah. What's next, Ed?
The last game of the week, Detroit, 3-point favorites on the road at 1-1 at Arizona, who's 1-1 that Chad thinks will have 10-12 wins this year.
Well, just put Chad down for Arizona.
16-1. 16-1.
So, Chad, I'll let you go first so nobody steals your thunder, man.
You know who I'm taking. I'm taking the mean red Cardinals.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's what you said last week, too. And they damn near won week 1.
They probably should have won week 1.
You just keep going like that.
Okay, Eric.
Detroit. Goff's got to get back on track here.
Brett?
We're fixing to start seeing a lot of desperation and angst in Detroit. Arizona's going to take this game and take it convincingly.
Thank you.
Oh, God.
I have Detroit. So just to get everybody up to speed heading into this week, I should have probably said the season record for everybody to maybe give them a little more credence. Chad, heading into the night, is 18-8.
There it is at the bottom of the screen.
Chad's leading at 18-8. I'm in second at 17-9. Eric is 16-10, and Brett above 500 for the first time since the kickoff of the UFL season is 14-12. But before anybody out there in bottom line viewing tonight's show, before you guys say none of those records are any good, I'll just have you look at these games. Big Daddy Ed here, when he puts a list of games together each week that we give our predictions on, very rarely do I pick a game that both teams aren't ranked in the college, that the NFL is more than a 3-point spread. So we're not picking the Alabama
lollipops.
versus the Morningside School of Dentistry.
Yeah.
We're
not picking
I'm
that.
struggling.
We're picking the games that matter, that people want to know our opinions about. So Chad's clinging to a 1-game lead heading into week 4 of picks. So that, my friends, is going to wrap up another exciting week. And after you listen to what we have to say, all that can be said is that, my friends, is the bottom line.
Peace out.
We will see everybody again next week. Have a good rest of your week. And if I can find the damn outro, here we go. See you guys next week.
And that's the bottom line.